Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel MIT Scare. Today we are going to dive into one of the most powerful, historical and deeply moving poems in your HSC English first paper syllabus, September 1, 1939, by the legendary poem W.H. Auden. In your HSC examinations, poems are incredibly vital. You will often face questions requiring you to write a summary or identify the theme of a poem, which carries substantial marks. To answer these questions, you cannot just memorize notes. You must understand the historical context, the mindset of the poet, and the deeper meanings hidden behind every single line. In this video, we'll cover the poet's biography, the historical background of World War II, and line by line and stanza by stanza breakdown, and finally look at an exam standard summary and theme. By the end of this video, you will be 100% prepared to answer any questions on this point. Make sure to grab your notebook and a pen and let's get started. First, let's learn about the brilliant mind behind these lines. Winston Q. Auden, universally known as W.H. Auden. Auden was an Anglo-American poet, meaning he was born in England but later moved to the United States. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest poets of the 20th century. What makes Auden's poetry unique is his deep engagement with politics, history, psychology, and social issues. Unlike the Romantic poets who wrote about nature and beauty, Auden lived through a time of severe political chaos. He witnessed the rise of brutal dictators, economic depressions, and devastating global conflicts. His writing is intellectual, highly stylistic, and serves as a mirror to the anxieties of modern human existence. Understanding his style helps us see why this poem feels so raw and urgent. Now, let's talk about the title September 1, 1939. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany invaded Poland on 1930. Why is this specific date so monumental? On this exact date, September 1, 1939, Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany invaded Poland. This aggressive act marks the official beginning of World War II, a global conflict that would eventually claim tens of millions of lives. At this terrifying moment in history, Auden was sitting inside a dive bar in New York City, while Europe was collapsing into violence across the Atlantic Ocean. Auden felt a profound sense of helplessness, fear, and grief. The poem is his immediate psychological and emotional reaction to the onset of a catastrophic war. It captures the heavy atmosphere of a world on the absolute brink of destruction. Let's look closely at the text featured in your textbook. Line number 1, especially firstly, the title of this poem. From September 1, 1939, it was written by W.H. Auden. And let's start this poem. Firstly, I will recite this poem, and then I will describe or explain the sentences or lines individually. I sit on one of the dives on 52nd Street, uncertain and afraid as the clever hopes expire. Of a low, dishonest decay, waves of anger and fear circulate over the bright and darkened lands of the earth, obsessing our private lives, the unmentionable horror of that opens the September 9. Firstly, line number 1 and 2. I sit on one of the drives on 52nd Street. A drive refers to a cheap, low bar or tavern. 52nd Street is a famous street. "52nd Street" is a famous street in New York. Auden places himself in an ordinary, unglamorous public space, seeking a place to hide or blend in while the world falls apart. Line number 3 and 4. Uncertain and afraid as the clever hopes aspire. The poet openly admits his emotional state. He is anxious and terrified of the future. The clever hopes refer to the political threats. Clever hopes refer to the political threats, intellectual discussions, and false promises of peace made by world leaders during the 1930s. All those hopes have officially expired or died because war was broken out. Line number 5. Of a low, dishonest decay. This is one of the most famous phrases in modern poetry. Auden describes the entire decade of the 1930s as low and dishonest. Low and dishonest. Because it was filled with political greed, appeasement of dictators, systematic lies, and a collective failure to stop the approaching darkness. Line number 6 and 8. Six to 8. Waves of anger and fear circulate over the bright and darkened lands of the earth. The news of war acts like an invisible wave, spreading much panic and hatred across the globe. It affects both the bright lands, prosperous, peaceful nations like the US or United States, and the darkened lands, nations in Europe already caught in conflict and authoritarian rule. Line number 9, obsessing your private, our private lives. This line is highly relatable. War is a massive geopolitical event, but Auden reminds us that it completely ruins the mental peace of ordinary individuals. Our private lives, dreams, and personal plans are suddenly hijacked and dominated by collective terror. Line number 10 and 11. The unmentionable order of death opens the September 9th. Even though Auden is physically safe in New York, he can metaphorically smell the unmentionable odor of death traveling across the ocean from Europe. This gruesome reality of slaughter and violence often ruins the peace of the pleasant late summer September night. And now, structurally, this exact form the first exchange of Auden's larger poem. Auden utilizes an 11th line exchange structure, often called an 11. When we analyze this stanza as a whole unit, we notice a brilliant structural shift. It moves from the deeply personal to the vast global. It begins with a single individual sitting alone in a local bar. I sit on one of the drives, and it rapidly expands to encompass the global geopolitical landscape lens of the art before narrowing back down to the psychological trauma of individual citizens. Auden uses heavy atmospheric imagery like darkened lands and odor of death juxtaposed against words like bright and clever. This stark contrast highlights the tragic loss of human reason and civilization in the face of brutal military aggression. Now let's look at how you should write the summary in your HSC exam script. Keep it concise, precise, and objective. Here is a high-scoring moral summary. Please listen carefully what I'm saying. The poem excerpt captures the profound sense of anxiety, disillusionment, and the terror felt at the sudden outbreak of World War II on September 1, 1939. Sitting in a New York bar, the speaker reflects on the failure of the past decade, characterizing the 1930s as a time of political dishonesty and false hopes for peace. As Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland begins, waves of collective anger and fear spread across the globe, severely disrupting the psychological peace of ordinary individuals. Ultimately, the poet highlights how the terrifying reality of mass death and warfare overshadows and corrupts the natural harmony of human existence. Next up, up the top is the theme. Remember, the theme should focus on the underlying message or central philosophy of this poem. Here is an HSC standard theme. I'm saying you will be listened carefully what I'm saying. The central theme of the poem revolves around the devastating psychological impact of war, political disillusionment, and collective human vulnerability. Auden illustrates how the great and dishonest diplomacy of world leaders inevitably result in global catastrophe. The poem emphasizes that warfare is not merely a political event, it is a human tragedy that infects private lives with pervasive fear, shatters intellectual optimism, and replaces civilization with the grim reality of death. And that wraps our comprehensive analysis of W.H. Auden, September 1, 1939. As you can see, this point is a masterclass in expressing the trauma of living through history crisis. Yes. If you found this breakdown helpful, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel for more HSC English tutorials and share this video with your classmates who are preparing for their exam. If you have any questions regarding any of the lines we discussed today, drop them in the comment section below. I will be happy to reply. Thank you so much for watching Study Hard, and I will see you all in the next video. Khuda Hafiz.